Hey, what's up guys? Today I'll show you a science fiction mystery thriller film, Signs. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. Hess is an ordinary farmer who lives on an isolated farm with his brother Merrill. One morning, he suddenly hears his children scream over there in the cornfield. He and his brother Merrill rush to the cornfield and find that large crop circles appear in the field. They at first attribute this to some nerd's hoax and call the police. However, when the policewoman and Hess go checking the cornfield again, they notice that all the corn stalks are down towards the same direction without being snapped, which is impossible to be done by humans in such a short time. The policewoman also mentions that many dogs of the farmers are acting really weird these days. This catches Hess's attention, as one of his dogs is not behaving as usual either. When Hess returns to his home, his son Morgan has already killed the dog, claiming that the dog was trying to attack his sister Bo. Later that night, when Hess is tucking in his daughter, he notices there's a shadow on the roof. He thinks it might be a burglar, and wakes up Merrill, trying to block the burglar's way from two different directions. However, they find no one, but only feel something strange on the roof. Therefore, the next day, Hess asks the policewoman for help again, hoping to figure it out. However, no progress is made at all, as no valuable clues are provided. Right then, the little Bo tells them that all the channels are reporting the same news, that the crop circles are appearing all over the world. What happened to their crops and the news on TV keep bothering Hess and his family. So Hess decides to take the family into town and get their minds on everyday things. However, later at the army's office, Merrill learns that those strange crop circles are probably the marks left by the aliens, who are using them to navigate or to evaluate the danger level. With that being said though, Merrill still finds it so unbelievable. On the way back to the farm, strange clicking noises are heard from the baby monitor, which Morgan wants to use as a walkie-talkie. Hess thinks it's just static, but with the sound getting louder, Morgan hears voices like people talking, though not in English. When Morgan climbs on the car and holds the monitor high, they hear two of the unknown talking, but it soon dies away. Later that night, noticing that the dog is fiercely barking towards the cornfield, out of curiosity, Hess decides to check it out there. There in the dark field, he glimpses a monster, scaring the shit out of him. Hess right away runs back home, and calms himself down. Then from the TV, the family find that the unknown lights are seen everywhere globally. That makes his brother Merrill feel overwhelmed, desperately trying to get some comfort from Hess. Hess, instead of comforting Merrill, tells his brother that it could be the end of the world. He then continues that people break down into two groups when they experience something lucky. Group 1 sees it not only as luck, but also God's blessing, while Group 2 sees it as pure luck and thinks they can only rely on themselves. Therefore, after seeing those lights, people from Group 1 tend to remain hopeful, while the other group tends to feel hopeless, as they do not believe in coincidence or miracles. Merrill, a failed baseball player, who no longer plays it now though, immediately claims that he belongs to the first group. Hess, however, doesn't say anything, as he has lost his faith in God long since, and already become a member of Group 2. In his flashbacks, it's revealed that Hess's wife was crushed into two parts in a car accident, causing him to fall into huge despair and lose his religious faith. What's more, Hess's son Morgan has been suffering from asthma since he was little, and his daughter Bo is obsessive with the cleanliness of drinking water. His children's congenital defects and his wife's death have become the last straw, forcing Hess to lose faith in God and changing him from a priest to a farmer. The next day, Hess and Merrill learn that, although those mysterious lights have all disappeared, birds are continuously falling down, looking like they have flown into a wall hidden over the sky. That means they are still there, but just cannot be seen by people. Disturbed, Hess goes to the kids' room and read with them, but is astonished to find in the book the aliens attacking a house, which looks quite like the house they are living now. Right then, they're interrupted by the phone call from a man who is responsible for the death of Hess's wife. The man doesn't say too much and then hangs up. Therefore, Hess races to his home for a check, but only finds him bleeding in a car and beginning to express his remorse for his wife's death and his losing faith. And then, he tells Hess that all the crop circles are away from water, which might mean the aliens are probably afraid of water. The man warns Hess not to open his pantry, as he has locked a creature inside. But driven by his curiosity, Hess decides to check it out. and he does see the fingers of the creature under the door, who is trying to attack him. During the chaos, Hess cuts off several of its fingertips and drives back home in a panic. When he enters the house, Hess finds that Meryl has put on the tinfoil hat, as the children do, as they believe it can prevent the aliens from reading their minds. It turns out that Meryl has also seen the alien from the TV news, making him terrified. Under that circumstance, Hess plans to take the whole family to hide near a lake. However, all the others prefer to stay at home, believing it's safer. Later, they learn from the news that lights are appearing in hundreds of cities globally, all appearing around the crop signs and seemingly preparing their attack. In order to protect the family, Hess decides to board up the doors and windows, as the creature was trapped in the pantry with a wooden door. Before doing it, the family decide to enjoy a good dinner together. However, at dinner, Morgan gets mad at his father for not saying a prayer, and he even thinks that Hess let his mom die. Morgan's misunderstanding and all those happenings finally make Hess burst out crying. Just then, some strange noises come out from the monitor. So they start to board up the doors and windows near the living room, trying to keep the living room safe, at least for now. However, the family are panic-stricken increasingly by the haunting sounds. They try to take shelter in the basement, but to no avail. In the end, they decide to escape from a coal chute, as it seems that the creatures are about to break in. However, Morgan, standing in front of an iron door, was suddenly caught by a creature. In a joint effort, Hess and Meryl manage to save Morgan from the creature. But Morgan has a sudden asthma attack due to his great fear. Luckily, Morgan survives, despite not having the medicine. After a night's rest, they learn from the radio that humans have found out the alien creature's weaknesses, and thus they are now evacuating from Earth, leaving their injured peers behind. Hearing the report, Meryl opens up the basement door and makes sure it's all clear in the house. Then the family all move back to the house. However, when Hess is taking the TV to the living room, the shadow of a creature is reflected on the screen. The next second, the creature takes Morgan hostage and sprays him with toxic gas from its wrist. Hess finds that the creature is exactly the one whose fingers were cut off by him. Just then, Hess suddenly recalls his wife's dying words to tell Meryl, who used to be a great baseball player, to swing away. Meryl thus picks up the baseball bat near him and bashes the creature. During the scuffle, they're astonished to find that water will scald its skin. Thanks to Bose being so picky about the water, the room is filled with so many glasses of water. Meryl keeps bashing and hitting the creature with water, eventually killing it. Outside, just as everyone thinks they are going to lose him, Morgan gradually revives. Thanks to his good luck, or maybe God's intervention, Morgan had an asthma attack at that right time, and his constricted lungs prevent him from inhaling the creature's toxic gas, thus saving his life. Due to Bo's excessive pickiness with water, they find out the creature's weakness by accident. All those considered as misfortunes before, now seen as luck, saving the family. Surviving from the ordeal, and believing that there actually exist the miracles, Hess becomes a priest again, and his faith in God is restored. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Peace out.